These are going to be the notes that are going to talk about trapezoids. The objectives are I will be able to recognize and apply the properties of trapezoids. The first thing that's very important about trapezoids, the past couple sections, we've been talking about parallelograms. A trapezoid is not a parallelogram. It is a quadrilateral, however. It is a polygon. That's why we're talking about it in this unit. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with only one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. So you should remember we talked about parallelograms that had two pairs of opposite sides. It was also a quadrilateral that are parallel. So we have these two sides, two opposite sides that are parallel and two opposite sides that are not parallel. So the bases are the parallel sides. Typically we see trapezoids with parallel sides on the top and the bottom. They can also be on the left and the right. So remember, the bases are just the parallel sides. The legs are the non-parallel sides. And the base angles are the two angles that share a base. Of a trapezoid. So I'm going to abbreviate that TRAP. So angle D and angle C are base angles because they share that base segment DC. That's a parallel side. We also have, we don't know anything about these angles being congruent, angle A and angle B are base angles. They share the base segment AB. So we have two pairs of base angles. We really start to get into some special properties of trapezoids whenever we talk about isosceles trapezoids. So you should be thinking about isosceles triangles, and there's a lot of similarities between isosceles triangles and isosceles trapezoids. An isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid with congruent legs. So remember, the legs were the non-parallel sides. So if I look at this trapezoid here, this PQRS, it's an isosceles trapezoid whenever we have those two sides are congruent. The two opposite sides that are non-parallel are congruent. We still have to have those two opposite parallel sides because it needs to be a trapezoid. We have a couple of theorems here. It says both pairs of base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So remember, we just talked about the base angles. Those are the angles that are formed with the parallel side, with the base. So this theorem would say that angle R was congruent to angle S and angle Q is congruent to angle P. The other thing that's special about an isosceles trapezoid is the diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. So for our picture, that would mean QS is congruent to RP. Now let's go over a couple examples. We'll do all these together. It says PQRS is an isosceles trapezoid. So we have that special property, isosceles. Find the measure of angle P, the measure of angle Q, and the measure of angle R. Well, the easiest one to find is the measure of angle R. The base angles are congruent, so if this is 50, I know that R needs to be 50. So the measure of angle R is equal to 50 degrees. As far as P and Q, we have to remember we have parallel lines. And these angles here are same side interior or consecutive interior angles. So you need to remember consecutive interior angles of parallel lines are supplementary. So that's where I'm getting that P needs to be 130. Because the measure of angle P plus the measure of angle S needs to be 180. So I would have something like P plus 50 equals 180. So the measure of angle P is 130. Again, P and Q are base angles, so that means the measure of angle Q has to be equal to 130 degrees. Now if we take a look at number 2, number 2 just says it's a trapezoid. It doesn't say anything about isosceles trapezoid. So we're missing the letter C here, got cut off. It says find the measure of angle A and the measure of angle C. Well, again, I just have consecutive interior angles. So the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle D is equal to 180. So the measure of angle A plus 89 is equal to 180. Subtract 89. I get the measure of angle D is equal to 91 degrees. To find the measure of angle C, I again have consecutive interior angles. So this is a big idea that's not really going away. If I wanted to solve this, it would be the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C is equal to 180. And then we have 103 plus the measure of angle C is equal to 180. We subtract 103. So we get the measure of angle C is equal to 77 degrees. The last problem here says we have an isosceles trapezoid. Using isosceles trapezoid PQRS, find X. Well, we know that isosceles trapezoids have legs that are congruent. So we have 5x plus 8 is equal to 9x minus 4. And it's just a simple algebra problem. So we do all of our steps. And we get x is equal to 3. We'll have some more practice in class on isosceles trapezoids.